Chosen one, there was a moment in your life that looked small to everyone else, but heaven marked it as the beginning of everything. You remember it. You know exactly which moment I'm talking about right now. Not the big, dramatic moments people expect. Not the graduations or the weddings or the promotions. A quiet moment. A decision nobody clapped for. A decision you almost didn't make. And that decision changed your spiritual timeline forever. You don't fully understand what that means yet. But keep listening, because by the end of this, you're going to realize that the life you're living right now, the confusion, the distance from certain people, the doors that closed, the doors that mysteriously opened, all of it traces back to that one unexpected choice. You didn't know it at the time. You couldn't have known. But something shifted the moment you chose differently than everyone expected you to. This is the part of your story nobody has explained to you. Until now. The decision you can't stop thinking about. There's a version of your life you almost lived. You know the one. The version where you said yes instead of no. Where you stayed instead of leaving. Where you took the safe road instead of the strange, unfamiliar one that made no logical sense at the time. You think about that version sometimes, don't you? Late at night, when the world is quiet and your mind starts wandering into the what-ifs. What if you had stayed at that job? What if you had stayed with that person? What if you had said yes to the thing everyone told you to say yes to? You sensed this before anyone told you. That saying yes to that other path would have felt easier, but it would have cost you something you couldn't get back. Here's what you need to hear right now. That version of your life doesn't exist because it wasn't yours to live. You made a decision that felt unexpected, maybe even irrational, maybe even against everyone's advice. And that decision became the exact hinge point where your true timeline began. Most people will never experience what you experienced in that moment. Most people follow the expected path their entire lives and never once feel the tug of something greater pulling them somewhere their logic can't explain. But you felt it. You felt a whisper underneath the noise, and instead of ignoring it like most people would, you listened. That's when everything changed. Why your decision felt so confusing at the time, let me tell you something that will explain a feeling you've carried for a long time. When you made that unexpected decision, it didn't feel peaceful right away. It felt disorienting. It felt like you had just stepped off solid ground into open air with nothing beneath you. You questioned yourself. You wondered if you had just made the biggest mistake of your life. This is what others could not understand about you in that moment. They saw a person making a strange, risky, unnecessary choice. What they couldn't see was the quiet certainty underneath your fear. A certainty that didn't come from logic, didn't come from evidence, didn't come from anyone's approval. That certainty came from somewhere deeper than your own understanding. You were not confused because you made the wrong decision. You were confused because you had never walked this way before. Nobody around you had walked this way before either, which meant there was no map, no mentor, no example to point to and say, this is normal, this is safe. You were walking into territory that only existed for you. This is what it feels like to be chosen for something specific. It rarely feels clear in the moment. It almost always feels like risk, confusion, and quiet fear dressed up as a decision you can't fully explain to anyone else. You felt it but could never put it into words. Until now, the people who didn't understand your choice think about the people who reacted strangely when you made that decision. Some of them questioned you. Some of them distanced themselves. Some of them quietly disappeared from your life not long after. You've wondered why that happened. You've wondered if you did something wrong, if you pushed them away, if the decision somehow damaged something that used to feel solid. Here is the truth nobody told you. Some relationships were only built for the version of you that existed on the expected path. The moment you veered off of it, those connections lost the common ground they were standing on. It wasn't rejection. It was incompatibility between two different timelines. This explains something that never made sense to you: why certain people seemed to fade the moment your life started shifting direction. They weren't cut off from you. They simply weren't assigned to the road you were now walking. This is one of the loneliest parts of being chosen for something unexpected. Nobody prepares you for how quiet it gets when you step onto a path that isn't crowded. But that quiet isn't punishment. It's protection. It's God clearing the noise around you so you can hear the next instruction clearly, without a dozen voices trying to talk you out of it. Only a chosen one understands this feeling, the ache of losing people while simultaneously knowing, somewhere deep inside, that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Why your breakthrough didn't come immediately, here's where the fear usually creeps back in. You made the decision. You walked away from the expected path, and then nothing happened right away. No sudden blessing, no instant clarity, no dramatic sign confirming you did the right thing. Just silence and time and the slow, grinding discomfort of waiting. You've probably asked yourself in a quiet moment, did I make a mistake? Should I have just stayed on the easier road? Listen carefully, because this next part will explain something you've never had language for. Delayed breakthrough is not evidence of a wrong decision. It's evidence of a decision so significant that it required new preparation, new character, new capacity before it could be safely released to you. If your choice truly created a new destiny path, the old version of you, the one who existed before the decision, was never equipped to carry what's coming next. Heaven doesn't hand you the next level using your old strength. It waits until you've grown into someone who won't be crushed by what's coming. That waiting period, the one that felt like punishment, was actually construction. This is why your pain became preparation. Not because pain is good in itself, but because the discomfort of that in-between season forced you to build patience, discernment, and depth you didn't have before the decision. You are not the same person who made that choice. You are someone stronger, someone quieter, someone far more spiritually aware, and none of that would exist without the waiting. You are closer than you think, but there's something even bigger you need to understand. The middle revelation, why this decision was never really yours alone. This is the part of the message that changes everything. You've spent so much time believing that unexpected decision was entirely your own doing, your risk, your gamble, your gut feeling that you followed against everyone's advice. But go back in your memory and really examine that moment. Where did that pull actually come from? You didn't manufacture that instinct out of nothing. Something planted it in you long before you consciously chose it. A quiet dissatisfaction that grew for months, maybe years, before the decision itself. A restlessness that refused to be explained away by comfort, by convenience, by everyone telling you to just be grateful for what you had. That restlessness wasn't a flaw in you. It was a signal. It was heaven preparing you long before the moment arrived, planting the seed of an unexpected choice deep inside you so that when the moment came, you would recognize it, not with your mind, but with something older and deeper than your mind. This is the truth that reframes everything. You didn't stumble into your new destiny path. You were led into it, one uncomfortable feeling at a time, until the discomfort finally became loud enough that you had no choice but to act. Everything you thought was random, the timing of that decision, the specific circumstances that forced your hand, the exact moment it all came together, none of it was random. It was orchestrated. Every piece of confusion you experienced before that decision was actually alignment happening in disguise. This is why your isolation was necessary. This is why certain opportunities failed before that moment, because they would have kept you comfortable enough to never make the leap you were destined to make. Every closed door before your decision was heaven closing the wrong rooms so you would eventually find the right one. You are not behind. You were never behind. You were being positioned. Why you still doubt yourself sometimes? Even with everything you now understand, there's probably still a small voice inside you that whispers doubt. A voice that says, "What if I'm wrong about all of this? What if this is just a story I'm telling myself to feel better?" This doubt is not a sign that you're spiritually weak. It's actually a sign that you're spiritually sensitive. People who feel nothing rarely question anything because they've never touched something real enough to be afraid of losing it. You doubt because what you experienced actually mattered to you. You doubt because you know the cost of being wrong felt higher than most people could imagine. This is what others could not understand about the weight you carry. To them, your decision looked simple, even small. To you, it carried the full weight of your future, your identity, your sense of purpose. They will never fully grasp the internal war you fought quietly while looking calm on the outside. You sensed this before anyone told you, that this path would require you to fight battles no one else could see. But here is something important. The presence of doubt doesn't cancel the reality of your calling. Even people set apart for extraordinary purposes throughout history wrestled with uncertainty right before their breakthrough. Doubt is often the final test right before alignment, not evidence that you took the wrong turn. Your doubt is proof that you understand the seriousness of what you're walking into. A person who wasn't chosen for something significant wouldn't carry this much weight over a single decision. Why this season feels so different from anything before? Have you noticed that this current season of your life feels unlike anything you've experienced before? Quieter in some ways, heavier in others. Strange, unfamiliar, but somehow also more real than any season before it. This is what happens after an unexpected decision creates a new destiny path. The old rhythms of your life no longer fit. The old distractions don't satisfy you the way they used to. The old conversations feel shallow compared to what's stirring inside you now. You are not losing interest in your old life by accident. You are outgrowing a version of yourself that no longer matches where you're headed. This can feel disorienting, even isolating, because the people around you are often still living inside the old rhythm you've already stepped out of. This explains why certain relationships have felt more distant lately, even without conflict. It explains why some environments that used to feel comfortable now feel suffocating. Your spirit has recalibrated to a different frequency, and frequencies that don't match will naturally start to feel dissonant. This is not something to fear. This is confirmation that the decision you made actually worked. It actually shifted something. You are not imagining the change. You are living inside its early effects right now. Why you feel like you're walking this alone, there's a particular kind of loneliness that comes with walking a path that only you can see clearly. You try to explain it to people and the words come out smaller than the feeling. You try to describe what you sense is coming, and it sounds vague, even irrational when spoken out loud. So you stop explaining. You start carrying it quietly instead. This is one of the clearest signs that you are walking a destiny path built specifically for you. If it were meant to be a group project, more people would understand it intuitively. But certain assignments are designed to be carried by one person first, so that the clarity and strength required to build them can develop without the noise of committee opinions and second-hand doubt. Your isolation right now is not abandonment, it's incubation. Heaven often does its deepest work in private, away from an audience, away from premature validation, away from voices that would try to shape your calling into something smaller and safer than what it's actually meant to be. Most people will never experience this depth of solitude because most people never make decisions unexpected enough to require it. The fact that you're walking through it means your calling required a level of separation that ordinary choices simply don't demand. You are not alone in the way it feels. You are simply positioned somewhere most people haven't been asked to go. The moment everything will make sense. There is coming a moment, and you are closer to it than you realize, when you will look back at that unexpected decision and understand it with total clarity for the first time. You will see the exact reason certain people left when they did. You will see why certain doors closed exactly when they closed. You will see how every uncomfortable, confusing, seemingly random event, since that decision was actually one continuous thread, woven with a precision you couldn't detect while you were living inside it. This moment of clarity is coming. It always comes for those who stayed faithful to the unexpected choice instead of retreating back to the comfortable one. Until then, your job is not to force the clarity to arrive early. Your job is to keep walking the path you can only partially see, trusting the same instinct that led you to make the decision in the first place. That instinct hasn't failed you yet. It isn't going to fail you now. Your season is changing. Not because of luck, not because of timing outside your control, But because you did the one thing most people are too afraid to do, you followed something you couldn't fully explain, and you let it cost you something. That is exactly what makes a destiny path irreversible. Once you pay a price most people are unwilling to pay, you cannot go back to being who you were before.
Chosen one. Here this is clear. Your unexpected decision was not a gamble. It was not luck. It was not even entirely your own idea. Though you were the one who had to have the courage to act on it. Your decision created a new destiny path, one that couldn't not have excited any other way, because it required exactly your fears, exactly your doubts, exactly your specific history of rejection and isolation and delay, breakthrough to shape it into what it's becoming. Nobody else could have made that decision the way you made it. Nobody else could have carried the doubt the way you carried it, or endure the silence the way you endured it, or kept walking when there was no proof waiting for them at the end of the road. You are now walking a path only you couldn't discover, not because you are better than anyone else, but because you were willing to listen to something quiet when everyone else was listening to something loud. Your preparation was not wasted. Your isolation was not punishment. Your doubt was not weakness. Every single uncomfortable piece of this journey was assembling something in you that could not have been built any other way. You are closer than you realize. Your season is changing, and the story you thought was confusing you this whole time was actually writing itself into something you will one day recognize as the exact moment everything changed. Comment chosen one if this message found you exactly when you need it. Share this with another chosen one who made a decision nobody understood but them. Your path was never a mistake. It was always meant to be yours alone.